Hi. So this is it. This is the final chapter of part two of how to read a book. Okay, chapter 12, aids to reading. All right. So relying on your mind, your thoughts, and your knowledge is the best way to go about reading a book. And I've talked about that in, I don't know, it was one of the earlier videos. Okay. Still, it is sometimes necessary to consult other texts, okay, such as dictionaries and commentaries. The trick, however, is not to over rely on them. Okay, this chapter deals with four external aids, namely relevant experiences, other books, commentaries and abstracts, and reference books. There's no golden rule as to what to use, when to use it, and where. Okay, you will have to make that judgment, but please do that only after you've exhausted your own mental faculties. All right, starting with relevant experience, it's important to mention that there are two types: common and special. Common is the type available to all people, given that they've been exposed to it simply by being alive. Okay, special experience is not found in everyday life, but requires whatever. Okay, a laboratory, special tools, and the like. These two types are applicable to different works, but sometimes share certain genres. For example, you'll need common experience to read novels, special experience to test and understand certain scientific dissertations, and both types of experience for history and psychology. To test your understanding and your use of relevant experience, try to give a pertinent example based on your own experiences in relation to the text you have read. When it comes to reading other books as external aids, the most important thing to keep in mind is respecting chronology. Okay, great writers often build on each other, and so for some texts, especially in history and philosophy, some works need to be read before others in order for the more recent ones to make sense. For commentaries and abstracts, use these as little as possible. Okay, there are two main reasons for this. The first one is that some commentators, professional as they may seem, are not always correct in their analysis or discussion. Second, a commentary may be accurate but limited in scope. This in turn limits your view on the matter and oftentimes prevents you from looking for other perspectives, right? Perspectives you may have discovered had you not been influenced by another's opinion. Okay, so to sum up, read commentaries and abstracts if you must, only after reading the original work yourself. Abstracts in particular can serve as summaries that refresh your memory later on. Okay, now this is one of the reasons I am doing this, right? Remember, one of my target audience uh, is people who have read the books I've summarized. Okay, you read it a year ago. You're not ready to read it again. Okay, but still you want to refresh your memory. Okay, that's partly what this channel is based on. Okay, um, so in that sense, okay, abstracts and summaries can be quite useful. Okay, there is one exception though to the rule of reading them only after the original text. Sometimes you need to determine whether or not a book is relevant to your research, to your essay, to whatever it is you're working on. Okay, in this case, by all means, read abstracts. Okay, because they will save you a considerable amount of time. Okay, that's another reason again why you may be on this channel. Okay, you want to decide. Okay, especially this book. Okay, um, it's so polarizing. All right, I mean, some people swear by it, like me. Okay, some people hated it. Okay, some people found the tone condescending, the writing too formal. Okay, the subtle disrespect for women. Okay, all his pronouns are his, right? Him, he. It's almost as if women don't exist. Okay, again, remember this was written 50 years ago. The original one was written in 1940, 82 years ago. Okay, so the way I see it is cut the guy some slack. He's a product of his time. Okay, but yeah, okay, this book has been polarizing. So one of the reasons why you might come here or or any other place, okay, is to decide, is it worth my time or not? Okay, moving on. What about reference books such as dictionaries and encyclopedias? Okay, there are a few things to keep in mind here. First, have some idea about what you're looking for. Okay, if it's a word, look at the context. Are the word's connotations negative, neutral, or positive? That's one thing to ask. Okay, does it seem related to other words you know? Is there a prefix, a suffix that gives you a hint? If you pretend that the word were missing, what would you put in that makes sense? So try to wrestle with a word, right? Before you passively run to the dictionary. Second, know where to find what you're looking for, okay? Will Wikipedia be enough, for instance? Oftentimes it is, right? Certainly not in academic writing. But if it's just something you're mildly interested in, you just want to get a general sense of, Wikipedia is great, okay? Or do you need to consult a more specialized work, okay? Third, know a reference book's organizational structure and its limitations, okay? The former, so how it's structured, will allow you to find what you're looking for more quickly, while the latter, its limitations, prevents you from looking for answers that don't exist. Reference books, and I use the term book loosely here, okay? Remember, he was writing before, the internet was a thing, okay? So I'm using books here to mean everything, okay? Cliff Notes, online dictionary, Wikipedia, whatever. Okay, they contain information generally agreed upon, okay? They have little use, in other words, they're not very useful when it comes to, say, moral or philosophical questions. And that brings us to the fourth and final point. Know what people agree on and what they don't in order to make your search more effective. Great. When it comes to using a dictionary, keep in mind that it is more than a tool for you to check your spelling or pronunciation. Use it to look up, I quote, technical words, archaic words, literary allusions, or even familiar words used in obsolete senses. Page 180. Look at historical examples, okay? www.dictionary.com is a great website for all this, okay? I swear by it. Highly recommend you use it, at least for American English. Okay, use it, okay, or any other resource. Use it to see how native speakers use certain words, okay? So if you're really interested, you can trace the word, okay? See how, a 16th century writer used it versus a 19th century one versus a modern one, okay? And see where they use it, okay? They pair it with what? What nouns, for instance, do they pair this adjective you're looking up with? And finally, see the context in which they use it. Is it usually used negatively? Is it usually used positively? Is it always simply neutral? Okay, all of these you can glean from a good dictionary. In this day and age, whenever the word encyclopedia is mentioned, we tend to think of Wikipedia. Okay, personally, okay, and this is coming from a teacher. I don't see a problem in consulting it. Okay, as long as one is using it for its intended purpose. And that purpose is usually to give someone a general but often brief introduction to a topic. Okay, ideally using facts in the word's most neutral sense. Okay, and should that prove inadequate, supply you with sources to further expand your knowledge of the topic at hand. Okay, facts, by the way, are bits of information that are or can be, and this is an important distinction, agreed upon definitively. Okay, gold as a metal is an example of a fact. We may not know a certain person's date of birth. Okay, but if it were to be proven, we can all agree on it then. Okay, in other words, facts are not relative; they're not subject to opinions. Reference works, therefore, do not or should not contain arguments. The problem that many students make these days is to rely on Wikipedia to prove their arguments. Okay, and that's when you're not using it for its intended purpose. Okay, this concludes part 2 of the book. Now we're done. Now it's all over. Lengthy part 2 is done. I'll see you for part 3 in the next video.